What up? What up, my guys? Welcome to another show, man. It's NFL Talk with Jay, the show that you guys have been asking about, man. We're talking about Week 8 picks here on the NFL slate, talking Thursday Night Football, every game on the board, my guys. If you can, like the show, retweet the show as well. If you're watching on Twitter, we're live on Twitter right now, my guys. Retweet. If we don't have 100 retweets on this shit, I'm going to be pissed off on you guys. So if you're listening to this right now and you have a finger and it works, please, man, hit the retweet button, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, all that good stuff. Shark, what up, my guy? Everything cool? Hadn't seen you in a while.
Oh, yeah. The show part 2 on a suddenly not so casual Thirsty Thursday, October 27, 2022. A great game tonight developing. Of course, we're wearing the Raiders gear. We're going to run down the entire card here. Jay Money, lead the way. Let's talk about Thursday Night Football. People in the chat, get live. Beers will flow in 2 hours. It is certifiably, indisputably, impossibly, unequivocally going down. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And I like NFL Sharp because it really gets the vibes going, really gets people hyped up. You see what I'm saying? So let's talk about it here, man. Man. Conspiracy Jay probably could come out here, but I'm not gonna go too deep. But Sharp, we got the Bucs here, land 2 points at home versus the Ravens. Looks super easy to take the Ravens here, right? The Bucs have been very lackluster. They do have a 45-year-old quarterback here. I mean, they just come out of losing to one of the worst teams in the NFL, 14-3. Didn't even score a touchdown. This team has been very lackluster on the offensive end. Do you think they could possibly break out here tonight, my guy?
It's a great question. I don't know if they're going to offensively break out. I do think that having this game ATS is not necessarily dependent on the offense to cover the game. You look at what they've done in their covers. Their covers actually were defensive battles. And, of course, you have to go back what seems like forever to find a cover. But it was week 1 and week 2. It was at Dallas 19-3, and it was at New Orleans 20-10. Key point in those games, the defense held the opponent to 3 and 10 points respectively. And now, of course, you come in here just off insulting, lackluster, inexplicable, unprofessional losses. Tom Brady's calling them out. Todd Bowles is calling them out in the press conference. Of course, he's not a loud, brash type of human being, but when he's making those comments, this has gotten to a point where they're saying to each other in the locker room, what's going on here, guys? And you come in here off a road sequence that is just hard to figure out, really. It's one thing to not cover an NFL spread. It's another thing to lose outright to a team that is so down right now with a rookie quarterback in Kenny Pickett, and then Carolina, who is supposed to be rebuilding, gutting the roster, uncompetitive, to be perfectly honest, 21-3. I mean, talk about the low point, absolute bottom point of Tom Brady's career with the Bucs. You come back here, I will say this. If you want to scale the schedule and sequence it, when you go back to weeks 1 and 2 and you go road win, and then they come home for 2 and go home loss, this is the polar opposite. This is road loss. Now they get 2 home games against Baltimore and the Rams before going to London, and then they get a bye week. Honestly, I think the Sharps are all over the Bucs here, and I did bring this hat out, and I think
Let's see it.
We can ride half wave here for a half second.
I hear. I like it.
I do think the Bucs tonight get off the schneid. This is unofficial. I am not putting my, as Jay would say, hard-earned dollars on this, but I do lean the Bucs to get off the schneid tonight. Jay?
Yeah, this is a tough game, man. And the Bucs are 0-5 against the spread last 5 games. They have not covered a game. They've lost 2 games in a row where they've lost as double-digit favorites, guys. I do think that's a key point. And they hadn't covered as 3 straight times as double-digit faves here. So they obviously do play a little bit better at the house. They didn't play a bad game versus the Chiefs, right, Shark? So I mean, this team, we know that they have a great defense. They played a game versus the Falcons while they were red hot. Probably could have covered their game if they didn't let them Falcons get a late touchdown there. So the Bucs can do it. They show their quality. The last 2 weeks have not been it. I don't know, man. It's a tough game. I think that these guys have been doing this on purpose, playing with people's money. That's what I'll just leave it at that. I really think that Tom Brady and these guys been playing with people's money, but I think they're going to do it again tonight. And how they play with your money tonight is they're probably going to go out here and win the game when nobody thinks that they can win it. You see what I'm saying? So that's how I look at this one. You kind of want to take the teams that I'm not saying you want to take this. I'm not on this officially, but the way I'm looking at it, I could see the Bucs win this game. The other day, Shark, it was at +1.5 as well for the Bucs. Now it's got to flip over for them to be the favorite. I can't say no one, but the average bettor is not looking at this game saying, oh, let me run to the window and take the Bucs. They're taking Lamar Jackson. They're taking the Ravens, the team that's looked substantially better. And I mean, I understand why, but this is the NFL, and these are the type of games where people lose their ass, as I could say. A Thursday night football game, a lot of people on lopsided to one game. I could see the Bucs getting it done here, Shark. It's basically when no one else believes in them, that's when they're probably going to go ahead and get the win as well. But you do think it'll be a lower score type of game? I actually think that it'll be somewhat of a higher score type of game. But you lean towards the under here, Shark?
I don't know. It's a tough question. I mean, when you really go through this, again, this is why NFL football is incredibly difficult to cap, just because we don't have a lot of games to look at. And you do go through the Ravens schedule. They do have two bloated totals. Both were against the AFC East. Of course, that is not Tampa Bay in the NFC South, but they had a huge over in week 2 against Miami, 42-38. Then they had another one on the road. You had this officially, Baltimore -3, 37-26 up at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. But since then, it has just been lackluster after lackluster effort. 23-20 against the Bills. And we know the Bills can score points with the best of them historically. So that's a game that got the life sucked out of it by the Ravens defense, and also intense rain that was a Hurricane Ian on the East Coast that day. And then a dud against Cincinnati, 19-17, Giants 24-20, Cleveland 23-20. I do think the over has some merit from the perspective of, if you really watch those Ravens games, and of course the Ravens have cost me multiple units, so I'm not sitting here a fan of the Ravens brand of ball at all at this point in time. But if you look at a lot of those games, they left a ton of points on the table in all of those games.
Mm-hmm.
4 turnovers in really just poor times in the game, a lot of weird calls down deep, just inconsistencies. And I do think, as a really large-scale remark, we made this comment, I believe, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Thursday Night Football. A short week oftentimes leans towards more points because defense is having a tougher time defending with dead legs, backpedaling, et cetera, et cetera. The total is going to be incredibly sharp. I mean, NFL football totals are just right on the number, just like the NBA, of course. But I do think you might see more points tonight than people would expect.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I could see Bucs in the over here in this one, my guys. We know that the Ravens, they should be able to get to 21 points in this one. I could see a 28-21 type of game here in favor for the Bucs, my guys. So obviously coming off scoring only 3 points versus a team that a lot of people thought had quit. You see what I'm saying? They go out there and smoke them 21-3. In theory, if you're gonna come up and have a bounce back game, you're gonna mainly have it offensively here. And like Shark said as well, short week for the defenses. It definitely spills to the over here. So I would lean towards Bucs and over in this one, my guys. It is a tough game, but it's a tough game for me, my guys. But it's like I say, man, people like to bet NFL. These be some gamble spots. But sorry, let's go to the Sunday games here now, man. So we officially into the week 8 slate here. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars, hometown London team. They play in London damn near every single year, Shark. And I think that's the key point here as well, going up against the Broncos here. Obviously, the Broncos in need of a win. I did see something that they were going to trade a player if they didn't lose this game. That's kind of crazy there. They're kind of forecasting if they do lose this game that kind of the season's over. But what do you think here, Shark? Jags, they play in London all damn near every year. It's kind of like their home team there. And the Broncos in need of a win in the worst way, getting Russell Wilson back. A lot going on in this game, my brother.
Yeah, no, I think the standout point, I think the most important point as you open this game for discussion is the fact that Jacksonville has been almost branded as the London team. I mean, there was some loose discussion about moving the team to London.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane, just because obviously one team traveling there talk about insanity of travel, the time difference, across the Atlantic, just everything is just insane. But you do find a Jacksonville team coming in here on an L4, and I do think they have a bye element to them because this L4, if we're being honest, is not terrible. I mean, you go back 4 weeks ago at Philly, they were up in the game, huge, 14-0 very quickly, and did give it up to Philadelphia, who looks like the class of the NFC potentially at this point. So it's not that terrible to lose by a touchdown to Philadelphia, who is showcasing that level of quality. Then they came back. I lost this wager. I thought they'd hammer Houston, and they scored 6 points in the game. But some of that is just Doug Peterson, unfortunately, just being too hyper aggressive in plus territory on fourth down. Like sometimes the field goal is just fine. Like we don't have to get 7 every freaking time. And again, it's not just we have to get 7. It's the fact that when you try to get 7 every possession, you're going to end up with a lot of zeros. And I've talked about this. It's now what you can call the 0 or 7 effect. Analytics-based offensive football in this generation is a 0 or 7 effect. They've eliminated the field goal in so many environments where in yesteryear, you're getting 3s. And that's going to hurt you in terms of totals, and it's going to hurt you immensely in terms of covering spreads when teams are just leaving 3 points on the table, multiple points per game. And then you came back, you had at Indianapolis, 34-27, Matt Ryan, like a walk-off touchdown to a young superstar to making potentially that Pierce kid out of, I forget where he's from, but just a stud rookie wide receiver late. And then last week against the Giants, I mean, back and forth in the game, Giants, being the Giants, covering every spread on these short numbers. I mean, we don't really know what to make of the Giants at this point. We'll talk about that, of course, when we go to 425. But again, all these games are either against quality opponents, divisional opponents, and weird games where Jacksonville just didn't get much out of their effort based on the final score. They played a lot better in the game than the score would reflect. And I think Nathaniel Hackett might coach his final game here. I mean, Jay, you talk about Herm Edwards. I saw somebody make a joke. Forget getting tarmacked. He got end zoned because when he got fired from Arizona State, they didn't even let him walk off the field. The AD met him in the end zone before he got to the locker room. And you talk about Nathaniel Hackett over here. I mean, I don't know what you call it, but they might just leave his ass in London.
He's been a lame duck for sure, Shark.
And how fitting would it be that he gets blown out in London and then gets canned and he just goes on a Euro trip and says, "I'm done with the NFL." But with that all being said, I do think Jacksonville is the lead here. I don't like betting the 9:30 a.m. game. I think obviously it's a middle of the afternoon game over there on local time. But I've always thought that added a layer of ambiguity to the situation. I don't know if that's the case this week. I think Jacksonville might be an official play for me. I'm still working on it, but I think that's definitely the look at the opening point here.
Yeah, that's a good point there, bro. Obviously, they definitely have the coaching advantage. It's crazy because both teams here are coming off L4. You see what I'm saying? But I guess you could say that the Jaguars have shown a little bit more upside here as well. Probably a little bit better quarterback play. Russell Wilson will be playing this game. I'm not sure with that bad hammy, though, if you want to be taking that long flight over there. You see what I'm saying? So you get up there in the air, man. You see when your muscles aren't necessarily right, you can feel it, man. And trust me, I got a bad shoulder. I can feel it when I'm up there on the plane, man. So never know the hammy. Is it 100%? Is it not? Obviously, if Russell Wilson has not been able to be mobile and can run the ball as effectively as he's been in like in Seattle days, then he won't be as effective there as far as like getting out of the pocket here. So in theory, must-win spot for both teams, but it's hard for me to trust Hackett over there, my guys. It's really tough. Their defense, they do have a great defense, right? But they did hold the high-flying Jets to 16 points in that game. But like I said, a lot of things going on with the quarterback in or out, the coach being a lame duck, obviously. And this is a key point as well, Shark. If Hackett doesn't really have a grip on his guys, how would they do? I feel like when you go across season, a cross-country trip like this, it's somewhat of a business trip. It's real key for you to have a great head coach that can really have a hold on the guys. If not, there's no telling what they might go over there doing, right? So, and I feel like even though Peterson had been the coach of this team, the Jags go over there every single year. They should be more acclimated to it. I think the Jags have more upside here. I think it's more points pointing their side. What do you think about that coaching element with them traveling so far, Shark?
I think it's a great point. And I think even jumping further off that, I don't think Nathaniel Hackett's ever had a grip on this group, even dating back to when he was hired. I think this has been a lost group since the very beginning for this coach. And I think take it one step further. I think Russell Wilson has become a very, very unlikable figure, not only publicly, but I don't think the team really likes this guy. And that's a tough sell when the team doesn't like the coach or connect with the coach, and they don't connect or like the quarterback either. And you mentioned the defense is absolutely stalwart. There's no question about that. But this offense is just historically awful. And I think there's a stank energy with this group. And I think it's Russell Wilson. I think there's so much psychology behind it. Obviously, NC State, Wisconsin, went to Seattle. Pete Carroll, just a well-noted players coach, great environment. They're playing music on the sidelines of practice, real open forum for discussion, comfortable.
Hey, what music was they playing on the sidelines?
During practice, I was watching training camp a few years ago. They were just blasting some hip hop or something, but it was a good vibe.
Okay.
I was like getting into it. And but I think again, like when we really come back to the center on this, I think Russell Wilson was incredibly aided by a very comfortable environment for him. And now he's over here, he's getting paid out the ass money. And it's just, I think he's just not the guy that can really function well with the huge contract, the huge pressure, the entire fan base behind him in Denver. And I also just think that he's not really the guy that should be a big media personality in commercials and acting in Hollywood. I think he's got himself in an uncomfortable environment. I think that's why it comes across as being so tone deaf. It's just not who he is. He's acting like somebody he's not, and it comes across stale and pretty fake, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Yeah, they definitely look at him like he's fake. That's a good point there about Russell Wilson. So it's the two big things here: the coach and the quarterback, not necessarily connecting with the rest of the team. This Denver Broncos team was supposed to be a top tier team in the NFL this year. They do still have a really great defense. They had a couple weapons on offense as well, but now they're starting to get to where they might start about trading away guys. This is another one. This could be like the Brooklyn Nets of the NFL, my guys, where the coach, the key players, they're not gelling, and it's doesn't matter what the names say on paper. If you're not gelling, it's professional sports, especially with football, where you need all of the pieces to come in on one. So it could be something like the Brooklyn Nets over there. The Broncos may not go to the next level until they get rid of the head coach, my guys. It's tough that they just gave Wilson so much money because you can't get rid of him. But let's go over here to the streets of Dallas here, man. We got the Cowboys laying 9 points versus the Chicago Bears. Shark Bears coming off an upset win. No one respected the Bears in that game, right? Then they win outright 33-14. And that one versus the Patriots. Now you got they're going up against the Cowboys here, Shark. Land a nice little hefty number here. What do you think about this game? Got a total sitting at 42.5 as well, my guy.
Tough game for me, but I also like wearing hats. So we're putting on another print that I just wanted to wear. So it's not an official buy hat. Like I before said, the lean hat. These are lean hats. I do think that the Cowboys have been just purely scorching hot. I mean, if you look at what they're doing here, they are, I believe, 6-1 ATS last 7. Of course, a lot of those were Cooper Rush. And now you look at home game 2 off Dak's first game back, a blowout, albeit a backdoor in the second half, 24-6 against the Lions last week. Ultimately, if we're going to do a little cross-section here, if we look at what the Lions did at New England, the Lions got hammered at New England 29-0, and then they got hammered at Dallas 24-6. So that can really correlate into itself. Chicago just went into New England and won outright and put a lot of points on the table. So if we're going to use that as a potential cross-referencing point, that should translate as a 1-to-1 to a reasonable, if not solid, effort here against Dallas. And again, I think Dallas is in a bit of a sandwich spot. Again, just blew out Detroit, who's not much quality right now. And they got to look ahead. Next week, they play a big-time 4:25 p.m. road game at Green Bay. I think this might be just a little inflated. I could see Dallas winning this game by 6 or 7 points, roughly.
Yeah, that's a good point there. That's a good point. Obviously, they're laying the price there. The Bears as well can somewhat be somewhat of a scrappy type of team. I know that Roquan Smith he's not happy at all that they traded away his guy over there. The guy is actually in tears, man. It shows you how much he loved playing defense with his partner over there. So I don't know, man. Bears off of a win. They could definitely cover this game here. I don't know, man. The Cowboys, this is a I don't know spot, so I'm not betting it. They do have a bye week on deck, and then they play the Packers. So McCarthy goes up against his old squad there. Maybe a little look ahead spot. Maybe these guys are looking ahead to a bye week. Zeke and the boys, Zeke loves to party, man. I can tell you that right now, man. He sometimes try to drag Dak out with him. Come on, man, let's go party. But Cowboys been really hot this year. I mean, I feel like they covered the game on the versus the Lions on accident, Shark. So sometimes good teams just do that. You wonder when the Cowboys are going to try to revert to being back to a good team. Still not a fan of their coach as well. Tough game for me. I'm not laying the price with the Cowboys, but also not betting against them the way that they've just been covering these games on the accident. It's kind of like the Giants where these guys just, I don't know what it is, man. They just come out there. They play their style of ball, and then in the fourth quarter, they just pull away from teams, man. So be interested to see when it flips, but it's a tough game for me. I'm not betting, my guys. Now, let's go. I mean, hey, what are we doing here, Shar? We got the Saints getting a point here at the house versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I got the background. You had the hat on to start the show, my guy. What are we doing in this one? Obviously, the Saints have started out here lackluster. The Raiders have started out much worse than people would expect as well. 2-4 straight up on the campaign. 0-3 on the road here. Can they get their first road win, my guy?
I think so. And we're not going official just yet because the line is actually getting steamed the other way. This was at 2.5, I believe, even a couple hours ago. So you never know where the money's coming. This could get down to a pick 'em, which, of course, is advantageous from a price standpoint. But what you're really looking at here is a bye team. And we talked about this week after week going back to the first month of the season. I mean, this team just kept losing heartbreakers over and over and over. Week 1, 24-19 at the Chargers. Week 2, blew a lead at home against Arizona and got walked off by a defensive touchdown in Allegiant Stadium. Cardinals 29-23. Came back. I think you might have had the Raiders on the road at Tennessee, and they laid an egg. Or did you have Tennessee that week? Did you have the Raiders that week?
I didn't have Tennessee. Yeah, I had the Raiders. I had the Raiders.
On the road,
sure.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And that game, same thing, just this tight window dispersion that did not go their direction for a period of time. 24-22 loss. They had a 2-point conversion right at the end of the game to go to overtime. They had all the momentum in the world. And you have to truly believe in within that environment. If they get that 2-point conversion with that momentum, they probably win in overtime. And then they came back. They were 0-3. I had a 2-unit play on them in week 4 against Denver. They did cover it 32-23 at KC the following week in prime time. And we had that officially again. And then last week we suggested, or Guns and I did on Sunday, that they would hammer Houston 38-20. So now they're 3-0 ATS last 3. They're still 2-4 on the campaign. All of their losses are one possession losses. This is a bye team. This is a team that is far, far better than their record. A playoff team from last year, a team that is catching upward movement as Derek Carr gets into his comfortability point with Devontae Adams. And Josh McDaniels, obviously his second opportunity to be a head coach in this league. He's starting to feel this group. They're starting to connect more. The Las Vegas Raiders are a bye team, and they will be a bye team until they're probably 3 games over 500, which is probably going to come somewhere in around week 14 or 15. And again, not officially on it just yet, but you guys get the gist. Let's ball the fuck out, Raiders.
Yeah, you see the hat, you see the background, man. Do you see my eyes? The eyes are showing. We got Raiders eyes right now, my guys. I like the Raiders here as well, Charlie. Obviously, this is a team that's due for upward movement. 1, 2 out of the last 3, covered 3 straight. They bust out offensively versus a good defense in the Texans over there. Still probably shouldn't have let them get 20 points, but still, the Saints offense is all over the place, right? They did just lose versus the Cardinals, and then when they've lost 2 straight. This team here, man, I'm not sure what to say about this Saints team. You got the quarterback play all over the place. Was it Taysom Hill? Is it Dalton? Is it Winston? Neither 3 of them are any good. If you got 3 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks, my guys. And another one with the coach as well. Shark pointed this one out early season to me, and I think there is some real substance to it. Where if the coach isn't lined up with the team, or if he's somewhat of a lame duck coach, it's going to be hard for them to get to the next level, my guys. So obviously they're really missing Sean Payton out there. I guarantee you, they write a blank check to get Sean Payton back over there in New Orleans. Sometimes teams that was good for a while just have down years, guys, especially when coaches leave or certain players leave. Look at the LA Lakers. So I think this is a down year for the Saints. I think they know it. And it may get to the point where they start looking towards next season here. So I'm right here with you, Shark. You've basically talked me into the Raiders. I'll be putting some on it here with you, my guy. The Las Vegas Raiders in this one, in need of a win and need to come up as well. And they get a team here that's a winnable game here on the road. Should get their first road win here. Let's go over here to the streets of ATL here, not too far from the scenes, but I mean, like down the street, you know what I'm saying, down the road over there. But you got the Falcons here, Shark, getting laying 4 points versus the Carolina Panthers here. Panthers looked like they were about to quit on the season, then they go beat the Bucs 21-3. Shark.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. I think there's a lot of counter narratives here. We were just discussing this off the record, but I do think that Carolina could actually get some sort of buy environment. I think it's more so just deep professional motivation, and that's all it is. This interim coach, Marks, he used to coach, I believe, Arizona at one point in time. We were just discussing this, but of course we're going to discuss it here now. But when we saw him kick Robbie Anderson off the sideline, I think that told us a story of what's going on here. He's not trying to rebuild. And you got to remember that oftentimes the front office and the ownership wants to rebuild. The guys that are on the field, they don't give a crap about that. They're professional athletes out here to prove that not only are they worth a paycheck, but they're worth their own quality on the field. And you saw last week, I mean, just a blowout win against Tampa Bay. And I've been talking about this all year. Atlanta is way too hot ATS. They were 6-0. Now they're 6-1. We faded them correctly last week. They got hammered at Cincinnati 35-17. Now they come home. Divisional game. I think this might be inflated just a little too much. We had discussed this with Detroit when Detroit got inflated and they did not cover a game against the Seahawks at home. This kind of reminds me of that type of environment where this team will function incredibly well as an underdog. And once they become adjusted to over a field goal favorite, this is where you want to fade. I could see Atlanta winning this game, but I think it could come real tight, 1, 2, 3, or 4 points. If you get plus 4.5, I think Carolina could be the side here.
Yeah, that's a good point there. I was one to think that this team would given up. I'll take you back to when Brian Flores over there with the Dolphins. They literally told him to kind of lose these games on purpose. That was part of his lawsuit over there. Like, hey, you guys want to fire me for losing, but you're telling me to lose on purpose as well. Might get that in Carolina. That's the only thing that I fear here. They did win that game. We don't know. Is it more on the Panthers or is it more on the Bucs? Literally just didn't care about the game, man. If you watch them, they couldn't get a first down. I mean, I think you could see it from the get-go. You go out there, go 3 and out. It's absolutely horrible from the Bucs. So I think that could have been a little bit more on the Bucs, literally just kind of sort of throwing that game. You do have the Panthers here on the road. I'm not laying the points with the Falcons, but I would have leaned that way. Shark knows a lot more about NFL than I do. Could be just a public take here, but I would lean the Falcons here to continue some upward movement. Obviously, they were winning. They were covering some games, but still weren't winning them. They're only 3-4 on the campaign here. So I know they're 6-1 against the spread, but this is a winnable game, and they could be able to get it done, man. But I would lean Falcons. It's not something I bet, though, but maybe you listen to Shark on this one. He knows a ton more about NFL than I do, my guys. You got something else on this?
One point I do want to make, and this is something that I've never really discussed, but we'll discuss it now briefly. If you're looking at running the table and you're looking at running the table versus your win-loss record or your ATS record, it might sound crazy, but it's actually easier to go 17-0 straight up than it is to go 17-0 ATS, because ATS is an adjusted handicapped average to neutral. Winning a game is just to win. And this is like when you look at the Patriots back in 2007 when they ran the table, they didn't cover 70% of their games in the last 8 weeks of the season. And so when you look at what was easier for them, it was easier for them to run the table and win ball games and not cover. So when you look at Atlanta here, Atlanta has lost some games, but they were 6-0 ATS. So actually, when you go 6-0 ATS, that means you're running cleaner than daylight. That should come the other direction. So just because they lost some games doesn't mean they should win. It actually should pull the other direction more so in the ATS quality than the win-loss quality.
That's a good point there. That's a damn good point. The home team is 4-0 and 6-1 against the spread last 7 in these meetings. And the Hawks, the Falcons are the two birds. The Falcons are 7-3 against the spread versus the Panthers over there, my guys. So maybe there could be something in Atlanta that the Panthers don't like. Maybe they go hit Magic City or something. It's a crazy game. personally would still lean the Falcons here -4. If I had a free play on the game, that's what I'd be taking, my guys. But let's go over here to the streets of Philadelphia here, Shark. You got the Eagles laying 10.5 points versus the Steelers here. You talk about the class of the NFC here. Now they come in here on a opponent that's not really scaring anybody, right? Do you think the Phillies, do you think the Eagles, we don't even do baseball shows, man, but do you think the Philadelphia Eagles, the Phillies, do you think they'll come in here and smack the Steelers, or can they keep it close? What are we doing in this one?
This is a tough spot. And as you mentioned, Phillies in the World Series, I think you said you sprinkled a little plus 160 on the series bet. So maybe it's just top of mind here.
Yeah.
And of course, Philadelphia right now feeling big time vibes. I mean, you got the 6-0 Eagles, you got your baseball team in the World Series. There's a lot of positive energy in that city right now. And you look at what's going on here, obviously off a bye, a big win against Dallas prior, running a pretty clean sheet here in general. Again, this speaks to exactly what I was just saying. Coincidentally, I did not say that to segue to this game. This team is 6-0 straight up, but they're not 6-0 ATS. It's always harder to run the table ATS than it is to win all your games. And you come back here, Pittsburgh on an inflated figure outside of the division. The last time Pittsburgh was on an inflated figure as an underdog outside of the division, it was at Buffalo, and they got their ass just obliterated. And if you're gonna cross-reference that, of course, we are extremely data deficient in the Kenny Pickett era. Not much we've seen. We've seen a couple reasonable home efforts, of course, a win against Tom Brady, and we've seen this blowout environment at the Bills. This line is telling you a blowout story. It's not a look ahead for Philly in any context. The following week, they play at Houston. They're definitely not looking ahead to that. This is a in-state rivalry to a degree. I don't think Pittsburgh and Philly are that deep of rivals because they don't play each other that frequently, obviously in different conferences. Regardless, Philly will be more turned up here to beat down Pittsburgh than Houston next week. Free play, I am laying it out with the -11 here.
Yeah, that's a good point there. This team is they coming off of a bye week as well. The Eagles are coming off their bye week as well, man. So yeah, and a little interstate rivalry here as well. Might want to smack them up. Yeah, I don't have much on this game. I'm not betting against the Eagles. I know that much. Not laying a 10.5 with them, but I'm definitely not betting against them, my guys, or taking those Steelers in this one, man. So definitely a tough game. No real look ahead for the Eagles. They got the Texans on deck, so only thing you possibly worry about is them coming out a little rusty off of the bye, but they should come here and smoke these guys, man, in theory. So let's go over to the streets of Detroit here, Shark. We got the Lions getting 3.5 points at home versus the Miami Dolphins here. Obviously, the Lions have not started off well. They can cover some games. That's usually what they do. They'll especially at the house as well. They can keep a game close, man. They might even be winning and then piss it away late. But do you Giants 1-5 here on the season, 3-3 ATS? You like anything in this game?
I do, and there's no hat for this one, but we're looking with significance at Detroit plus 3.5 here. And again, you said it, you go back all the way to last year, and this team was a disaster, but they were not a disaster at home against the spread. I mean, they're covering almost every single home game. I believe they're covering it at 85% rate, maybe even 90% since the beginning of last season. Mm-hmm. And coming to this season, you do find a nice little buy low spot here. This team just got obliterated on the road 2 consecutive games. Sunday, October 9th at New England, 29-0. Off a bye, came into Dallas, as we talked about before, 24-6. So a team that had scored a lot of points all of a sudden has scored 6 total points in the last 2 games. But I think that is opponent driven. New England, historically great defense, hostile outdoor environment. That was their first outdoor game of the season. It was definitely a shift in the comfort zone for Jared Goff and the boys, and then at Dallas. And a lot of people will sit here. I know Dallas has a gigantic national fan base. I know Cowboys Nation is thrilled with their defense this year, and they showcased it again. 6 points, 24-6. So you get a buy low, you get an L4, and you come back to exactly what we're talking about, home efficiency. Covered as a dog in week 1 at plus 4.5 against Philly, which I think is going to be pretty similar to this game. Covered for Jay in his special Sunday, September 18th, 36-27, laying points to Washington. And then a home loss, 48-45 versus Seattle, which was a non-cover. But again, it's what we were saying about Atlanta when they get adjusted to a favorite they can't cover. Detroit was favored in that game with significance. Now they go back to where they're comfortable as a dog, as an over a field goal dog. This is what you want to buy Detroit here. And Miami is definitely not in the spot to blow this team out this week.
Yeah, that's a good point there, my guys. Yeah, the Dolphins kind of sort of going back, kind of regression back to the mean here. In my opinion, coming off a nice little win. They've 0-4 against the spread last 4 games as well. The last 2 games on the road, they lost as well by 12 and by 23 points. So they're not necessarily in good form right now. You make some good points, and you always have that element where the Lions do what they do, where they could possibly lose this game by 3 points. Miami still wins. We still get the cover. It's a win-win for everybody here. And in theory, you should get a desperation spot for the Lions as well, coming off 4 straight losses, and they're coming off a game where they score 2 games where they score 0 points and 6 points on the road. So in theory, they should come back here and have a really great offensive game like they did versus Seattle. 40. I mean, it could be the same type of game, man. But high scoring game, they lose by 3 as well. But the only thing was they were laying points in that game, so now they're the underdog. So could definitely wouldn't talk you off the Lions, and they'll win plus the 3.5. Definitely a desperation spot as well. Dan Campbell, we know that they're going to try to juice the players up here as well. You got Miami going to the dome over there as well, so they're not at the house, man. Couldn't talk you off Lions here, Shark.
One further point on that. If you really look at Miami's schedule here, their defense does not perform on the road. 3 road games. They gave up 38 points to Baltimore. They gave up 27 to Cincinnati, and they gave up 40 to the Jets. Home games are a completely different story. So just remember, this defense is not traveling that well for whatever reason. Could be because they play on the opponent coming down to Miami in the heat, and they suck the life out of them down there. But that's a significant gap. This team is not traveling well on the road defensively at all.
Yeah, that's a good point there. And if they're not traveling well defensively, the Lions are going to carve them up offensively here. I could see a good over spot here. I think everything that we're talking about correlates to the over. We know the Lions are a really good over team. They're coming off 2 great defense as well, coming off somewhat of a little bit of a softer defense. So I think that correlates to more points for the Lions and the over as well. We know that the Dolphins can score some points, and the Lions don't have the best of defense. So that kind of, I mean, people know, total bettors know, just take the over for the Lions. Hadn't cashed the past couple games, but could see it getting back on that over train here, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Minnesota here, the cold streets of Minnesota. Are we howling with the Wolves? No, not today, man. We got the Vikings laying 3.5 points versus the Arizona Cardinals here, my guys, going game by game with the rotation numbers. Total of 49 here, Shark. What do you think here? Do the Vikings continue to stay hot, or you think that bye week kind of really stop some of their momentum, my guy?
Yeah, I do. I think the bye week will stop the momentum. And I don't even know if it was great momentum to begin with. You know, this team comes in here 4 straight wins, but 4 straight wins against Detroit, again, who's not really a playoff caliber team. New Orleans overseas, 28-25 non-cover, a very unimpressive game, really, back and forth versus a lackluster opponent. And then Chicago, who's also not a playoff team. And then they just beat down Miami 24-16 as a short favorite against a Miami team who I believe was fielding a 3rd-string quarterback in that game. So they have 4 straight wins, but they have 4 straight wins against non-playoff caliber environments. Now they come back. Arizona is a sustainably very good road football team. You get an environment where Arizona did not cover last year at home, but did win outright 34-33 in a crazy back and forth affair. Now you get Arizona as a dog where they function very, very well. And I think Arizona will continue upward movement, obviously starting last Thursday night against the Saints. With Andre Hopkins coming back into this lineup, it's a totally different energy. This guy is not only an all-pro receiver, he's a leader. You listen to this guy talk, obviously coming out of Clemson about 8 years ago, people were not so high on him coming into the draft. He immediately stepped on a pro football field and became an A-list receiver. I was listening to him last week in the post-game show on Thursday Night Football. Real sharp guy, leader of men, very intuitive, very thoughtful, and this is definitely going to make this team a lot more efficient on the field. We're looking at Arizona plus 3.5 here with significance.
Yeah, I couldn't talk you off here, man. And the Vikings are due to drop one as well, my guy. So I feel like it's the perfect storm. You got that home favorite at the house laying 5.5. This line comes down to 3.5, my guys. I like it. I like the Cardinals in this spot, man. Especially, definitely could see them turn up as well with D Hop. They've covered it 3 out of the past 4 as well. And they're on the road. This is somewhere where they function a little bit better as well, my guys. So wish this was a primetime game, man. We get Kirk Cousins on prime time, but definitely could be. Sometimes you don't want the bye week to come when you're scorching hot, my guys. You want that bye week to come. Actually, it's better off when you're not playing that good or you're a little banged up. When you're riding high and everything is going well, you don't want that bye. It's really going to stop some of that momentum, like the Cardinals here, to continue their upward movement here, Shark. I can dig it, my guy. Definitely can dig it. And Cardinals coming off a little mini bye as well after playing on last Thursday, so a little bit extra rest as well for them. Could definitely see the Cardinals getting an outright win here. Let's go over here to the streets of New York here. We got our guy Guns in the chat here. His Patriots laying 2.5 here on the road. If you early in the week, you could have got 1.5. I believe the Bryce Hall injury news came out that he's going to be out for the season. Maybe push this line up to 1. Did say that Mac Jones is going to start here, Shark. Not necessarily sure how I feel about it. I do think this team kind of caught a wind with Bailey Zapp out there. Then Jones comes back, kind of messes things up, but then Zapp comes in, throws a couple picks as well. So neither is quarterback that's looked well here. The Jets have been absolutely balling out. They come to the house here. You think the Jets can keep it going, my brother?
This is a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. And you mentioned obviously the quarterback situation with New England. I don't think anybody really knows what's the right answer right now.
Right.
Obviously, Mac Jones last year took him to the playoffs in his rookie season. Nobody really foresaw that. But I think that really is just the Belichick system working so well. And of course, it is Belichick himself schematically and energy-wise, but it's also his coaches. He has great coordinators. He has great position coaches, and they just refine their guys so well on the field. And of course, you look back at the history of this rivalry. I mean, this is like one of the biggest one-sided rivalries, if not the biggest one-sided rivalry in the last 20 years. I mean, I just pulled it up. All I see is green from the Patriots. The Patriots won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
12.
7, 8, 9, 10, 12 straight. The last time the Jets won was, I believe, 2015. It was 2 days after Christmas, 2015. Jets in overtime at home. So you get
probably Byron Scott and the boys, right?
Bart Scott.
Yeah.
No, I think it was. And I think right after Christmas, that was the Mark Sanchez days, I think.
Butt fumble. Yeah. Jets were good then, man.
Rex Ryan and the boy, I believe. I don't check us on that, guys. I know we got a lot of fact checkers in the chat here, but I mean, this reminds me of when the Jets hammered the Dolphins at home going back a couple weeks ago. The Dolphins had owned them. I believe the Dolphins had won like 4 in a row, 8 out of 9 or something. I know you're looking at New England here, and I do think New England has a significant, coaching and, schematic edge here. I just think that the counterpoint would be this generational bye that was exhibited by the Jets beating the Dolphins at home in a game prior this year. I don't have a lean on this game. I think this is kind of a toss for me here.
Yeah, that's a good point there. I think the problem was though that the if you look at that game, the Dolphins, believe that was the game after Tua was out as well. They had a lot of shit going on. They were coming off some wins. I don't think there was a focus spot from the Dolphins here. I'm not in that game. I'm not saying that the Jets can't smack them up here, but I'd be very surprised if the Jets came in here and blew out the Patriots like the way that they did versus the Dolphins team. I just think this is a totally different coached team as well. Obviously, coming off a loss, the Patriots are actually starting to catch a win. I was reading a bunch of stuff how they were saying that they thought the Patriots were actually going to like take off on a run as well. That was before the loss to the Bears. Everybody was on the Patriots there. People really thought they were back, had won 2 straight games, smacked up the Browns, blew out the Lions 29-0. We know the Lions have a good offense, had covered 3 straight games. Everyone was riding high on the Patriots, and then they got smoked versus the Bears in that one. But you had quarterback ambiguity, as my guy Shark would like to say. So I think once they figure out who the quarterback is, go with him all practice, stay with him. You see what I'm saying? You can't be switching up quarterbacks in the middle of the game. It's going to throw the whole team off, my guys. So I think that with them naming Mac Jones here, he got benched. He should come back with something here. I think this is a game where defensively the Patriots Bill Belichick really coaches them up here as well versus Zach Wilson. So be interested to see if the Jets can keep it going. They have caught a wind as well, but I'm one to think that it comes to a stop here for the Jets, and Belichick really coaches this team up and get them back on an upward trajectory here, my guys. So couldn't talk you off the Patriots there. Let's go over here to the streets of Houston here, Shark. We got the defensive Texans here, the defensive juggernauts, bunch of young guys over there flying around, man. Lovie Smith obviously is a defensive coach, coaching them up well here. You got the Tits here, the Titans laying 2.5 on the road here, Shark. What are you doing, man? Just take the easy play with the Titans, right? Apparently, Shark. The cash every time.
I mean, the Titans are a public darling right now. I mean, they just cover every week. They're on a dub 4. I believe they've covered 4 straight games dating back to that game we talked about with Las Vegas. They covered at Indianapolis. They covered at Washington. Again, real tight. We had Washington that week for the loss. Carson Wentz throws a pick on the goal line to end the game. Coin flip going their direction. There's no way around it. And then last week again, they got Indianapolis again, 19-10. Of course, Indianapolis now benches Matt Ryan for Sam Ehringer, the kid out of, I believe, Texas, or Ellinger, whatever it is. They're on a dub 4. They're smoking hot. They come into Houston. Last year in Houston, the Tennessee Titans did win the game 28-25. This is a 2.5 line. I think it speaks to how sharp this could potentially be when they win by 3 and in the same stadium the next year. It's the same line as the previous result. And you do get a spot to potentially buy Houston. Houston is coming in here off a blowout loss on the road. The last time they got blown out on the road, they did come back and actually get hammered by the Chargers. So maybe that's not valid. I honestly don't like this game, so I'm just going through it very loosely. This is pretty much your pros versus Joe's spot. Joe's are going to be on the Titans. Pros probably going to be on the Texans, the short line. It is what it is. I don't like the game.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the pros versus Joes. The Joes been winning them motherfuckers as well, man. It looks super easy to take the Texans here, man. I'm not betting against them. The fact I'm not betting against them, they probably lose this game, man. But if I'm telling you, if I took the Texans, the Titans to find some fucking way, man, to win this game, bro. They've won 4 straight, covered 4 straight as well, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm not an NFL expert, so I don't try to be, my guys. You can bet the Titans if you like. Obviously, the Texans are a lower tier type of team coming off a win, but I think the Titans get super lucky every game, guys. But let's go over here to the streets of Seattle here, Sharp. We got the Seahawks land 3 points. My guy Ronald in the chat up there in Renton, Washington, close by Seattle, saying he likes the Seahawks in this one. What do you think here, Shark? Giants, another lucky team, been getting lucky. This is somewhat of an environmental shift for them going over here on the West Coast. What do you think about this one? Seahawks at the house, my guy.
It's going to be tough because, again, the Seahawks are also theoretically over their expectations. I don't think anybody had the Seahawks at 4-3 through 7 games. I don't think anybody had the Seahawks blowing out the Cardinals at home or blowing out the Chargers on the road in their last 2 ball games. You come back here, out of division game. It's kind of hard to cross-reference this really with anything. Their only out-of-division home games this year were the opener against Denver. Of course, we know how awful Denver is, and that cost us money in week 1. Week 3, they were a dog against Atlanta. Atlanta did get there, and we talked about that. We thought Atlanta was the sharp side there. If you're willing to use that as a reference point, this should speak to Seattle as a favorite over the Giants. And, I mean, we talk about this week after week. The Giants are just running on the absolute heater of all heaters. The Giants are not blowing people out. What the Giants are doing on the road is they are hanging around and then getting one possession late to cover the spread, which, of course, in NFL football, 1 game a week, everything within 1 week condensed into 60 fast minutes, that is maybe a recipe for success. Maybe it could sustain itself. But, I mean, this is tough travel. Road, back-to-back off a really tough, hard-fought win in Jacksonville last week. Now they go out, as you said, different body time, different environment, all the way out west, Pacific Northwest. Seattle is the sharp look in this game. I'm not on it right now, but Seattle is the sharp look in this game.
Yeah, and I can't go official with it because if I go official against these fucking Giants, they're gonna. But I made money with the Giants. I actually cast a pretty big bet versus them. Who are they playing? The Bears at the house. I was all over that shit. So I mean, I like the Giants. I bet against them last week. I still think the Jaguars were the right side in that game. They lost it in the 4th quarter, man. The Giants defenders, what they say is they take them into the deep end and they drown them. So I kind of look at that as they try to, just like you said, they try to do their best to hang around all game and then they turn up in the 4th quarter. That could be their angle, Shari, and all. That's what they've been doing every game. The second half, they talk about in the chat as well. My guy LJ from Houston, Giants are 6-1 in the second half this year. Only one they didn't cover was the one versus the Cowboys, and they were my guys. So that's what they do in the second half. But in this one, Shark, I'm not sure if they'll have enough. Like you said, you go down to Jacksonville, then you go back home to New York, then you go all the way across the country to Seattle. I don't like the spot for the Giants here. In theory, the defense should give up in the set. In theory, my guys, but I mean, I always say go with your gut, guys. If you like the Giants, hey, take them. If they've been putting money in your pocket every week, then obviously, I mean, you're up so much to where if you do lose one, then some people are just gonna auto take it. I couldn't argue off that, especially when you've cashed with them 6 straight times, my guys. But could understand the lean towards Seattle there. A ton of travel coming there. Obviously, is Metcalf hurt? I thought DK Metcalf got hurt. We know that with that Lockett was already a little banged up as well. So something to keep an eye on there. But I thought I saw that Metcalf was a little banged up or didn't practice or something like that. So something to keep an eye on there. But Seahawks, I'd lean that way there. Let's go over here to the streets of Indianapolis here, Shar. We got the Colts laying 3 points at home versus the Commanders, the football team here, my guys. You got a couple of backup quarterbacks here, as you mentioned earlier, Ellinger. Here, what do you think? Personally, I think that the Colts could possibly catch a little wind with the quarterback. We talk about it with Russell Wilson as well. If you didn't necessarily like the quarterback, or if you know that the quarterback that you have is ass, now you get some new faces in here, some new blood, a change of scenery. Sometimes it could be addition by subtraction. Do you think it happens here, Sharp?
It's hard to figure out. I made the comment to you off the record, but this reminds me of like a minor league football game almost. And you get Taylor Heineke in here out of Old Dominion, and that's no disrespect to Heineke or Old Dominion, but again, this is not a highly touted big-time guy, and you get a team that's just purely lackluster at 3-4, giving away spreads off a big win. And I think they will show continued upward movement. I think Carson Wentz, it's unfortunate to say, because obviously Carson Wentz, when he got hurt in what became the Super Bowl run for Nick Foles in the playoffs going back 6 seasons, I mean, he was having an MVP campaign for Philadelphia. And he got hurt. He never came back the same. And it's really sad to see, because I think I respect him as a person. I think he's a great quarterback that just couldn't come back. And that being said, it's a huge, huge advantage point to have Taylor Heineke playing ball for them. You go to the other side of this, it's very similar stuff. Matt Ryan appears to be just over the edge. That's the end of his career. He's done.
Right.
That arm, not reading the defense. Obviously, he's not getting great protection. And Jonathan Taylor being out 1 or 2 weeks didn't help either. Right. But I do think this would be a theoretical jolt for Indianapolis. But again, Washington theoretically is a bye team with this environment as well. This game for me is an absolute toss-up.
Now you make some really good points there, Char, because it's both teams here that possibly get addition by subtraction by their old quarterbacks as well. And it's good points about Wentz as well. Some players are just not the same without the injuries. Even though it's a new day and time, they can kind of repair it a little bit better. You're still not 100%, man. You can't redo it the way that it was actually done originally, my guys. So good points there about Wentz. He's lost me plenty of money, man. So that's probably why I don't really like him. But you can make a good point there. I mean, they come off that win 12-7 versus the Bears. Their huge win last week at home versus the Packers. You could say they're due for upward movement here. I mean, and they have to, right, to hang into the NFC East up there with the Cowboys. With the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Eagles, they're doing as well, man. But I think it's maybe they come to the realization that they're probably not going to make the playoffs this year in this division, my guys. So I don't know. It's a tough game for me. It's definitely a gamble for sure. Would like to lean towards the Colts, them more of the fresher one right off that. I feel like with both teams coming in with the backup, you kind of want to take the fresh one here, the one that has the new change of scenery here lately, right? So we're lean Colts here, but I'm not betting this game. It's definitely a toss up there. Let's go over here to the streets of LA here. Sorry, we got the Rams getting a point and a half. Someone did say something in the chat about them just getting running back. I had to check that, but they just said there was just one person. Rams just signed a running back. Regardless of this, man, they've been owned by the Niners here, Shark. The line is all over the Niners here as well. The Niners are coming off a couple losses as well, which says that they're not overlooking this game, and they want to continue to beat the Rams' ass and still playoff revenge as well from last year as well, Shark. So a lot of things are setting up for us to take the Niners here again. They've covered 6 straight versus the Rams. Do they make it 7, my guy?
Yeah, I think they would. And we're putting a hat on here, the shark tooth hat for the Shark, dating back to the mid-'90s here. Logo, okay. Beautiful brand it was. But what you're looking at here, as you said, this is generational domination. Jimmy Garoppolo Niners flat out own the Rams. And this line within a line functionality spot within the same division is suggesting a continuation of this. In the previous game, which we had correctly, the only other time I've worn this hat, San Francisco did hammer the Rams 24-9 on a Monday Night Football special October 3rd. Now you come back, you catch them off 2 losses. You had a road sequence on the East Coast at an early start time at Atlanta, a total trap dud fatigue spot loss, 28-14. Then you came back last week, and the Chiefs did what the Chiefs are just doing on the road on these short figures at the NFC. They hammered them 44-23. The Chiefs are now 3-0 ATS at the NFC, all as a short dog, and they've scored over 40 points in all three of those games. Talk about sustainable stuff and sustainable environmental uniqueness. So now you come back to environmental uniqueness, if you will. This is San Francisco at the Rams, strong line, buy zone. And Jay, you were all over the Rams all last year, and you said it. This team is not going to back up success with success. They have not. And I think we're looking at San Francisco with significance here.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, man. When you have a good read on a team and then you realize that they're not the same, you go ride with yourself and then you fade yourself, man. So I mean, I do like the Rams as a team, man. I like a lot of their players, but I don't see the same hunger from this team this year. My guy Ronald in the chat makes a good point that the Rams are coming off a bye week, which in theory helps them get prepared for this game. And the San Francisco will have a bye week on deck. But I think the key thing here is the fact that 49ers coming off 2 straight losses. Obviously, they just got CMC over there. McCaffrey got smacked up by the Chiefs as well, but the Chiefs are looking for a win in the worst way in that one. They are a top quality type of team. I guess what I'm saying, I don't think that the Rams are top dogs this year, a top quality type of team, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit of complacency, a little championship hangover, whatever it is. Ramsey's not that shutdown corner that it used to be, in my opinion. Obviously, Aaron Donald's always going to be a beast, but you don't see the same offensively from them. It's Cooper Kupp and everybody else, in my opinion. So maybe the 49ers try to look at this game, triple team Kupp, make the rest of the team beat you, my guys. Allen Robinson's not been showing it. I think this team is missing a player that can take the top off. It's Kupp with a lot of short passes, dinks and ducks, trying to get down the field. What do we saw in the first game? When it got down to the end zone, they could not score a touchdown versus this 49ers team. I think the defense really has them figured out. Maybe it helps the Rams, the fact they have a bye, to try to schematically come up with something here, but I really think it could be one of those, especially in NFL, when a coach going up against the other coach and they keep winning every single time. He's found something. He's found a recipe for success, and you kind of just keep going with it, man. 49ers have won 7 out of the last 8 games versus the Rams and covered 7 of the last 8 as well. When sometimes you just got a team figured out, and I think that's what you get here with the Niners. They're a better team than even what they were last year, where they beat them 2 times in the regular season. I'd be looking towards the Niners here in this one. And like you said, Shark, laid 1 earlier this year. Now you laid 1.5 on the road here, where the Rams should be favored in this game. I like the Niners in this one, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Buffalo here, Shark. Last game up, Sunday Night Football here. We got the Bills laying 11 points versus the Green Bay Packers. This somewhat looks like the chase game of the week for me, my guy.
Well, putting on my favorite hat of the entire NFL collection here, the paintbrush throwback Bills hat.
Super Bowl champs this year.
Oh, yeah. And we are looking at a beautiful print. The sun's coming down. Thirsty Thursday Night Football, Week 8. The Shark and Jay Money. We're dominating. We're crushing it. And you know what I'm looking at here? I'm looking at the Bills again with significance. And I look at this line, and I look at historical lines at this point. Look at this line, ladies and gentlemen. When you see the Bills laying 11.5 points to Aaron Rodgers, that is telling you a crazy story. The Packers are old news. They're unregulated. They're poorly coached. Aaron Rodgers has his mind on Shailene Woodley and ayahuasca, and he's missing his top receiver from the past 5 seasons. I go over here to Buffalo, primetime game, Josh Allen, campaign 5. And you look at one game that I think is really telling you a story as to where this is going to reverse completely. Josh Allen, I believe in his rookie year, played at Lambeau Field. And Josh Allen got shut out in that game, 22-0. In that game, Josh Allen was 16 for 33 passing, less than 50% completion percentage for $151 and 2 picks. It was growing pains. He's going to remember this. People need to realize Josh Allen, right alongside with Patrick Mahomes, are 1 and 1A of this generation. This is the beginning of a 10-year window that's going to mirror Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Take notice. Get behind this guy. The guy's a competitor. He remembers when he gets his ass kicked, and he has one of the worst games of his career. his rookie year at Lambeau. The Bills are going to turn the fuck up here. I believe this game could take on the environment you saw the Bills against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago on a similar figure.
Yeah, that's a good point there. I love the Bills. I do believe they're going to win it this year, my guys. But simply put, I think I think there's other things going on in this game. I see the Bills winning this one by 7. It's just the way I see it. Everybody's happy here. Odds makers as well. I do think this is a Sunday night football game. Me personally, Sunday night football game. This is one where you kind of want to wait and see who the public is all over. If they're on the public dog in this one, obviously you stay off that one. But I envision them being on the Bills here coming off a bye week. Why wouldn't you like the Bills? They're the best team in the NFL. They just beat the Chiefs as well. So could argue that it's a little bit of a letdown spot. It's hard to have a letdown spot off of a bye week as well. It's so long time, but let's just say this, Shar. There was a huge game versus the Chiefs there. They wanted that game. There was a circle spot right there. I'm not saying they can't blow out the Packers. This Packers team is very lackluster right now. Lost 3 straight and have not covered 4 straight as well, but my conspiracy theories would say that the Bucs and the Packers probably cover this week, my guys. So it's not even something I'm on officially. Like I say, we're dominating the NBA right now. I'm betting what I'm an expert in, but I'll be watching these games closely and see if my conspiracies transpire, my guys. But I could see Buffalo kind of getting through this game, the skin of their teeth, still winning, still keeping it going, but not covering the spread, my guys. So I would lean the Packers plus 11. Wouldn't be a bit surprised if they beat them outright as well, to be honest with you. But the Bills I do think that they will be the Super Bowl champs this year, my guys. And I actually said it before the season. It's no fanboy shit or bandwagon internet. I said it for the Rams last year, said it for the Bills this year. Let's see what happens, my guys. Let's talk about some shirts real quick, man, before we get out of here. Use promo code WIN10, man. Use promo code WIN10 for the shirts. You can get the Jay and Shark shirts, us against the bookies. Let's get some cash, whatever shirt you like, man. $10 off. The Jay and Shark shirt, $15. We're doing this show for you guys, man. If you can, hit the like button, subscribe. jmoneyismoney.com, my guys. Use promo code WIN10. Jay and Shark shirt, only $15. Show some support, man, if you can. Now, let's get to some free picks here, Shark. Free NFL picks. What you liking on the card, my brother?
Well, I apologize. The books and the mafia were coming to get her, but I said no. So we're going to drop one official play now. I said I would drop it at 3 o'clock. I meant to mention it when we were going through the card. It just slipped my mind. One official play dropping right now. Arizona Cardinals plus 3.5, 1 unit. That's a collaboration with the great Fusini. I will post a separate video on that potentially tomorrow afternoon. Book that now, guys, before it gets to 3. I think steam is coming in. I think this might get down to a field goal or even 2.5 later in the week. And I think Jay is also on this. So I think this is probably a 3-way energy point in collaboration. One time now, and there's going to be much more on Sunday morning. I'm live 10 a.m. Eastern. Jay's live 11:30 on here. An opportunity to dominate. 1 hour in the books. Dry mouth. I'm drained. I'm going to have beers. Going to hang the fuck out. Beautiful night to dominate. Jay Money, a pleasure as always. Close them out and let's go.
Let's go, man. I appreciate you doing the show with me, man. We're up to 1 hour and 2 minutes now. We're trying to get some cash. Please, guys, if you can, hit the like button, subscribe, retweet the shows, guys. The only thing we ask, if you can, I mean, I'd say get a shirt as well. They're only $15, showing your support, showing that you guys appreciate this as well, guys. If I feel like when people are giving out free picks, working for the people, you want to show your appreciation. You want to push those guys to give you even more free picks and top content, not going the other way, right? If people don't get to support, and then people be like, oh, well, maybe we should charge for picks now. That's what usually happens, guys. Not saying we're going to do that, but I'm just saying show some support. I like the NFL plays, man. Check out the NBA shows as well. Retweet this if you're watching on Twitter. Yeah, I'm riding with Shark, man. The Raiders and the Cardinals as well. Might put some on Patriots as well. I know they've won 12 straight versus the Jets, but it could be 12 times revenge there, but maybe Belichick gets the guys going. But the 2 top plays would definitely be Raiders and Cardinals there, my guys. It's a lot of good plays. I'll be back live on Sunday morning. Like I say, hit the like button, subscribe. We will win, my guys. Check out the NBA show, fire show that me and Shark did earlier today, my guys. We out. Let's get this cash, man. It's us against the bookies. Fucking go.